today. UFC 319 goes down this Saturday in Chicago, and we have already covered the main event in my previous video, so please go check it out. But today, we are going to get off into some other fights that I cannot wait to see on UFC 319 on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy, Matt, and we are here to go over some other fights that I'm most definitely interested in seeing on UFC 319. Now, as I just spoke about, I've already gone over the main event. Still knocks Dricus Du Plessis stepping in the octagon with the Wolf, Khamzat Chimaev. I already gave my prediction on that. I already put that. Please check out the previous video. You know, your boy is putting it down. Huge Dricus Du Plessis fan. Please check it out. Nevertheless, let's get serious, because we're going to start with the co-main event as I check my nizzos. In the co-main event, Lerone Murphy steps in the octagon with making his UFC debut, Aaron Pico. Tough fight to call. Because here's what you're getting. Let's start with Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy is an extremely well-rounded fighter, which I believe is why it's somewhat of a problem between him and the fans. Now, I like Lerone Murphy. I ain't got no issue with the man or how he fights. But Lerone Murphy, you know, dude is definitely in shape. You can tell that by looking at him. He's got power. You can tell that by looking at him. When it comes to wrestling, if he needs to, he will, if an opponent really starts lighting him up on the feet, Lerone Murphy will take them down. Or if he gets rocked or wobbled, he will definitely scramble and go to the ground with him. He'll take an opponent down quickly just to gain some control, just to give him a chance to clear his head, clear the cobwebs after being rocked. And generally, he lightens up a little bit, and his opponent will eventually make it back to their feet. If they don't have hardly any grappling or defense whatsoever, then Lerone will keep him down, and he ain't tripping on keeping him down for the rest of the round and just banking that one with a good lay and pray style. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, I think everyone's problem with him is he also cracks on the feet. He seems to be very accurate. He has fast hands, but generally he relies, in my opinion, more on combinations, right, to drop his opponents. So you see the way this dude looks. You know his backstory. I mean, the man was shot in the face. You know what I'm saying? He from that side of the tracks. You know what I'm talking about? My kind of dude. You know what I'm talking about? Nevertheless, you know he's a tough, hard dude, right? And you know that he possesses that power to drop an opponent, wobble an opponent, you know, just to hurt a man, to hurt somebody, you know. He definitely possesses that. So I think everyone's issue is a lot of the time, because he is such a well-rounded fighter, you know, good grappling, good takedown defense, good defensive wrestling, but he can also wrestle when he has to. You can tell it's not his primary form, but he can when he has to. As well as he's a pretty good striker. I think the disconnect is in a lot of fights, you kind of see Lerone Murphy being ahead, and you think, man, if he just really steps on the gas, he can get his opponent up out of there. But because he's so well-rounded, because he is a pretty thoughtful fighter, meaning he's pretty calculated, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't go there. He doesn't do that. Once he realizes he's probably going to win this fight by the scorecards, or he's got enough rounds in the bag, he's definitely, I ain't going to say he full-blown coasts, but he's definitely safe to coast. He doesn't have a problem with that, right? Aaron Pico on the other side. Aaron Pico has had a very interesting career. Been in Bellator his whole career, transitioned over to PFL when they purchased Bellator. Aaron Pico got hands on the feet. You know what I'm saying? Used to go to Freddie Roach's gym to train. I don't know if he still does, right? Aaron Pico looks good getting off the bus. Young dude, touted as one of the biggest prospects in mixed martial arts, right? primarily, he was coming into the game as an outstanding wrestler. Over time, he developed good hands, good combinations, things like that, right? His career has still been up and down. We've seen him go in there and look outstanding against opponents. We've seen him getting taken out by opponents. When you talk about this fight, it's why it's so tricky to call. You would think the smart money, you would probably lean toward Lerone Murphy. You know, Aaron Pico's first time in the octagon, debut in the UFC, you know, left the PFL kind of in the weird circumstances. All of them do when they make it to the UFC. Let's be honest. You know, Don Davis, if you know who he is, over in the PFL, one of the guys that helped runs it, you know what I'm saying? F that Jonathan Coachman. It's all about Don Davis, you know what I'm talking about. But Don Davis, you know, there's a lot of weird things going on over at PFL. So when guys leave, there's usually tales to be told, and they're not good. On both sides. Don Davis will talk his mess, and the fighters leaving will talk their mess. But Aaron Pico, coming into this fight, the smart money says to go with Lerone Murphy. He's been here. He's been around. He's on a nice streak. He's fighting world-class competition. One thing that I would pause, or two things I would pause about, as I just spoke, when Lerone Murphy gets in trouble, if he gets in trouble, he tends to want to wrestle, try to take his opponent down to the ground while he regroups. Another thing is Lerone Murphy in a lot of his fights gets caught at some point. A lot of the times it's early in the fight, and that tends to wake him up. But he gets rocked a great deal over the course of his different fights. Not a bunch of times in one fight, but if you look at each one of his fights, there's been a lot of them where he's been rocked at least once. And that's generally when he tries to take his opponent down while he recovers. I'm actually going to go along with Aaron Pico to win his debut fight against Lerone Murphy. I'm calling that because I believe that Aaron Pico definitely has hands. Wrestling is what we primarily have known him for and know him to do. But I feel like Aaron Pico's going to come in with pressure on Lerone Murphy. That ain't no thing to Lerone Murphy. He ain't scared of that. But I think that since Murphy gets caught in a lot of his fights, I think Pico will catch him at some point. And when Murphy tries to dive to the ground to try to take him down while he regroups, I'm not so sure that that's going to work against Aaron Pico. With his wrestling pedigree, I'm not sure if that's going to work. And so what does Murphy do when Pico continues to stuff the takedowns? I mean, I'm not no professional fighter. I don't know nothing about nothing. But at the same time, Aaron Pico, probably him and his team know exactly what I'm saying about Lerone Murphy. That's why I'm going to pick Aaron Pico to win, because I think since Lerone Murphy generally gets caught in his fights, when Pico catches him, his takedown defense, I believe, will hold up against Murphy and he won't go down and he can continue to onslaught. And if he doesn't get him out at that time, at that moment, then I honestly believe he can catch Murphy again and keep it going. So for this, I got to go along with Aaron Pico to go out there and defeat Lerone Murphy. So let's move on to the next fight. Pardon me while I reach over and grab my Fizzone with my Nizzotes on it. That's an inside joke if you wonder why I'm saying that. Let's pause for the calls. I back. It was that fast. Nevertheless, trials and tribulations of being an MMA YouTuber. Nevertheless, let's move on. How about Jeff Neal? Jeff Neal stepping in the octagon with the man that loves to blow a dart, to just rip one. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about cigs, not e-cigs, full-blown cigs, Marlboro Reds, a man cig. Nevertheless, Carlos Prates stepping in the octagon with Jeff Neal. Another fight that I feel is tricky to call. This is number 11 being Jeff Neal versus number 12, Carlos Prates. This is another one that I think is tricky to call because Jeff Neal, extremely tricky fighter, right? I was roaming through UFC's YouTube page, right? And I was looking at the posts that they had up about the different fights coming up, and they had a post of this with a poll on who thought, who do you think's going to win this fight? Most people were choosing Carlos Prates, but I was reading in the comments, and everybody seemed to kind of be agreeing with what I'd actually made a comment. Exactly this. In my opinion, I think Carlos Prates wins this fight. But the sentiment when I posted that, and I saw a lot of people post the same thing in the comment section, there's definitely a world where Jeff Neal goes out there and gets this job done. You cannot count out Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal looked good against Shavkat at moments. At moments. He had moments with Shavkat, bro. We ain't talking about, we ain't talking about Mike Mallet. We talking about, I don't even know why I had to shade him like that. We ain't even talking about him. We talking about Shavkat. You know what I'm saying? The man that comes to the octagon donning fur on his head. That's when you know you in for a tough, long night. When the dude you about to fight comes to the ring with a fur cap on, you about to get hurt. And I ain't talking about Brendan Allen fur cap. I mean Russian, Dagestani, somewhere over there type fur cap. You know what I'm saying? Nevertheless, bro, Jeff Neal held his own against him for a moment, and then finally Shavkat put him out or choked him out. With that being said, kind of like a big, a bully choke, a bulldog choke almost. Nevertheless, man, part of me feels like Carlos Prates goes out there and gets it done. Primarily because I believe he's going to be coming back with a fury. I believe his team, the Fight Nerds, probably extra game planned for Jeff Neal to go out there and get the job done because Prates was one of their guys, like Kyle Barao, right? Like Jean Silva. He's one of their guys that they want to be propped right there like Roofy. They want him to be right there, kind of doing their thing, dominating their division. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Prates to get the win. You know what I'm saying? I think he'll be cold. I think he'll be calculated. I think he'll take his time. I don't think he's going to rush into anything. Considering his last fight, he made a few too many mistakes and he got up out of there. He got taken out. I mean, he hung in there. He lasted, but still, it wasn't a good fight at a point. Prates had nothing. With that being said, man, I have a feeling that with the game planning of the Fight Nerds, knowing what's at stake, knowing what's on the line, I'm willing to believe he probably had a really good training camp for this. And he's going to come in fully prepared. And I think he's probably going to get Jeff Neal out of there, right? I think he'll wait. He'll lull Jeff Neal into a false sense of security that he's kind of taking his time. And then like the sniper that Prates is, he'll unleash that fury. He's not necessarily a sniper type striker like an Israel Adesanya where he catches you with a sudden shot and drops you and then goes in for the finish. Prates, when he decides to pour it on, he pours on the pressure. And his hands are coming at you one after another, bing, 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 bing. And before you know, it's over, bro. So that's what I think we're going to see here. However, there's definitely a world where Jeff Neal eats all those shots, keeps this going, and this goes to a 3-round decision, possibly in the way of Jeff Neal. But we will see. On this one, I got Carlos Prates. How about Jared Cannonier stepping in the octagon with Michael Venom Page, MVP, back at middleweight? This is another tricky one, bro. This is another tricky one because I'm going to be honest with you. MVP at middleweight against a guy like Jared Cannonier kind of has me believing the style that Jared fights kind of has me believing that the style MVP would take into this fight is a more of a rangy stick and move style, which is, it's generally what MVP does. But I think he would be looking to have a whole lot more movement. Sometimes he's not necessarily stationary in his movements, but he leans more into his reactions to the shots that are coming at him, or reacts more so to the ways in which his opponent is going to move toward him. I feel like he's looking at this like I can't let Cannonier get a hold of me. Let alone I can't take a shot from Cannonier. I don't want to get I don't want to get punched by this man. Not even one time because Cannonier packs that power. He can get you up out of there, right? Cannonier got that cannon. You know what I'm saying? But also, Cannonier, when he wants to, he can wrestle. Or he can at least get you down to the ground and devastate you at elbows. We've seen him finish guys like that, right? But that's why on this one, I don't know if MVP at middleweight, at middleweight, he's just coming off of a fight with Shira Bullet. I'm not sure if at middleweight, MVP's going to be able to keep Jared Cannonier up off of him. I know he's got the movement. I know he's got the sudden shots. I know he's got the flashy style. And I'm sure he'll catch Cannonier. But Cannonier is a guy that you can rock, and he knows how to evade, weather the storm, take punches, get his mind back, get his wits about himself, and go right back into the fight. Also, he's not scared of a counter shot. You can hit him with a few shots and look like you've rocked him or look like you wobbled him, and Jared Cannonier will counter and put you down. Now, I don't necessarily expect MVP to wait around that long to get countered, but it is possible. For this one, I'm actually going to go along with I believe that would be an upset. I don't think Cannonier is the favorite. I'm going to go along with Jared Cannonier to go out there and get the win. Now, I don't think he finishes MVP or anything like that, but I think he can win a 3-round decision. So, I got to go along with Jared Cannonier. How about this? How about Tim Elliott stepping in the octagon with Kai Asakura? On this one, I got Kai Asakura, but I definitely think this is going to be a fun fight. I'm just looking at the photo. I don't know if he still got it, but we got Wild Man Tim Elliott, matter of fact, coming in with the long beard on this fight. I'm still going to go along with Kai Asakura. I think Tim Elliott is an extremely good fighter. I think he's really good. I think he's got a really fun, outstanding style, but I think sometimes his fight style gets away from him. I think he's so chaotic, at times it can be detrimental to him and his game plan and winning fights. I think he gets so wrapped up in being chaotic and being unpredictable and going to the ground. Let's go back to the feet. Let's go to the ground. Let's throw a spinning back elbow. Let's throw like some sort of a spinning wild punch into a takedown, into I'm going for an arm bar, but now I get blocked. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying Asakura's got a good ground game, and there's definitely a world where Tim Elliott could submit him on the ground. Dude's got a good ground game, good jiu-jitsu, definitely could cinch up. I could see like a ninja choke, a dar, something along those lines probably. Maybe even take the back for a rear naked. But I think the UFC knows what they're doing. I think they're setting up Asakura to go out there and get a win. I'm going to go along with Kai Asakura to get the win here. How about GM3? Another fight I really want to check out. GM3. Gerald Meerschaert stepping in the octagon with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I got Mikhail to go out there and get the win. This is a new and improved Mikhail. This is Fight Nerds Mikhail. You know what I'm saying? I think they're going to game plan him, man. And I think a lot of guys that take a L to GM3, I think they get in there with him. And because he's a fighter that can lull you into a false sense of security, I think that they get in there with him. They've game planned for him. They're ready, and they get in there, and he's so slow moving and has such a methodical pace that I think they kind of overestimate him. And by the end of the second round, GM3 coming on. He coming on strong. And then you got to go in there in the third round with GM3. I mean, that's why they call him GM3. And you got to go in there with him, and sometimes he comes out on top. However, I believe that under the Fight Nerds tutelage and game planning, they won't allow that to happen for Oleksiejczuk. So, if I'm even pronouncing his last name right, and if I'm not, I do apologize. I think he's going to go out there and get the win. I think he beats Gerald Meerschaert. I think he finishes him at some point via strikes. Jessica Andrade versus Lupi Godinez. Not a fight that I really expect to be shocking. Like, I definitely for sure expect Lupi Godinez to go out there and get the win. But I'm a Lupi fan, And I think they definitely, I mean, they want to see her string together quite a few wins with no losses. I mean, she had already had, she was on a nice win streak, then she took a L. I think they wanted her to string something together so they can eventually, no time soon, but eventually try to put her in the title picture so they can keep things moving at strawweight. But I mean, I just want to see it because I like watching Lupe Godinez fight. So I got Lupe Godinez over former champion Jessica Andrade. Another fight I'm interested in seeing: Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. Look, man, as I've said plenty of times, Alexander Hernandez just has never been the same ever since he got embarrassed by Cowboy Cerrone, Donald Cerrone. He's had ups, he's had downs, but he's definitely been inconsistent in his career and more so on the losing side. Chase Hooper's reborn. This is striker Chase Hooper. This is man Chase Hooper. You know what I'm saying? This is Chase Hooper living that grown man adult life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? This is Chase Hooper that can go out and get a beer. You know what I'm talking about? Go to the bar. You know what I mean? That Chase Hooper. I got Chase Hooper to go out there and get the win over Alexander Hernandez. We got Edson Barbosa on this card against Drakkar Klose. I know Drakkar Klose was trying to make a resurgence, and I know Edson Barboza hasn't looked the best in his last few fights, but man, Edson Barboza has had a strength of schedule. Wow. You know what I'm talking about? Deep schedule. I mean, his last loss was to Lerone Murphy. So, I mean, what you want? This is a guy in the co-main event on this card. I'm actually going to go along with Edson Barboza to go out there and get the win. I think if Drakkar Klose could make it to about middle ways through the second round or make it to the third round, he's easily going to beat Barbosa because Barbosa at this age, at this much mileage on him, he definitely gets tired, and when he gasses, there's nothing left there. He can still throw a spin kick or two, but there ain't much on it, and the accuracy goes out the window. But I think first round Edson Barboza is still a beast. He's still deadly, and I believe that he can appeal to that. Drakkar Klose a throw down. That dude to throw hands. And I think Edson Barboza can tap into that in the first round, lure him into fighting, catch him with some amazing counter strikes, and probably put him down. I got Edson Barboza to go out there and get the win. Finally, another fight I really want to check out on this card. Last one I'm going to speak on. Bryan Battle stepping in the octagon with, I'm just going to go along with this gentleman's last name, Ruzhabayev. Ruzhabayev is a big dude, man. Bryan Battle's a big dude. This fight is at middleweight. I think the UFC's like, Bryan Battle, we can't keep doing this welterweight stuff. We tired of it. You keep missing and stuff. Keep missing weight. So this is at middleweight, right? Ruzhabayev normally fights, he has fought definitely at welterweight. Both guys bigger, but bigger as in they're in the middleweight division, but Ruzhabayev's going to be huge. Bryan Battle is on a little run, though, and Bryan Battle did get Randy Brown. He did beat him. I mean, you know. Man, I like Bryan Battle, bro. I mean, this is a bad pick. Okay, personally, I think Ruzhabayev probably will take this fight. I think he probably will win this fight. He's got the height. He's got the range. I think he'll probably win this fight, but man, I'm going to be a happy dude if Bryan Battle going to go out there and get that done, bro. Bryan Battle's that dude, bro. He's just a battler. It's like his name, bro. That dude is a battler. He swings the battle axe, you know what I'm saying? He goes to war, bro. Man, I want to see some fireworks, bro. I'm going along with Bryan Battle to get the win. I don't think it happens. I hope it does. Shout out to Bryan Battle, bro. You got a fan in me. I like the way this dude fights. I don't care if everybody boos him. And he cheers, tells them to bring on the boos. Bro, I'm going along with Bryan Battle to go out there and get the win. So, those are my picks for UFC 319. It goes down this Saturday in Chicago. Man, check it out. Please check out my previous video where I discussed the main event, Dricus Du Plessis attempting to defend the middleweight championship against Khamzat Chimaev. And man, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you agree or you disagree with these picks. Because once again, this is Matter of Fact MMA. Is it Matt or is it fact? You could be the fact in this one. So please let me know. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of fact, MMA. And I check you next time. Peace.